and eating this stuff thanks to the lack of, this is cat food, to the lack of the cola from the Congress. Congress is not giving us a real fair cola. We're getting 47 cents for the dollar that we got 10 years ago, seniors. So you wonder why they're struggling, yeah? Why seniors are on welfare now. Oh, it's senior, what they call it, senior advantage or whatever, but they're in trouble. So what's this going to have effect on you, your office? Now you had, last time I heard, what, about 20 some people working?
About 21 individuals working for me. And the problem really more than anything is that we, at the DA's level, of course, we're not, I'm the only level. We don't have any sort of local level. There's no town level or village level. All the prosecution emanates out of my office on the county level. And of course, you're looking at a situation, I'm tied in with law enforcement. And you know, it's one of the last things that people really want to cut. And I've gone through the last week, we've already closed an office in Jamestown that we had. I'm down to 4 secretaries, where at one point we had 7. And you know, we've just systematically over the years have cut my office. And you know, you're going to see a real impact on our ability to be effective if we're cut anymore. You know, the crimes, our stats are up, our cases are up. I looked at the statistics between 2011 and 2000, just to compare those 2 years. And the increase in our caseload was almost 20% between
Which
those
is horrendous.
time
Of course, during economic hard times, crime rises. People
That's
steal
correct.
because they haven't got any money.
That's right.
And you're the guy who winds up holding the bag, right?
I am the one, it all eventually lands in my lap.
Yeah.
And we need to have the resources to be able to prosecute in the same way that the police need to be present to be able to make the arrests. And what's unfortunate about it is I think that, and I think rightfully so, but it's unfortunate that we look to the county to cut the budget, but the county controls so little of what we actually can cut. And the services that we do control are services that I think the people are paying taxes for. Law enforcement, Department of Public Works, these sorts of things. People want to have
the aging,
office for the
carts,
aging,
transportation
all of these
system,
things.
and Veterans Affairs.
That's right.
Very important, and they're going to cut these, believe me.
Right, and they come in and they have unfunded mandates from New York State that come in and put pressure on the county to make cuts in the services that I think the people want. And it's untenable sometimes to be put into the position and as county leaders to have to face those cuts, because the expectation is going to be that we're still going to be able to deliver on the services that the people want, but we're going to end up losing people.
We're one of the top 2 or 3 poorest counties in the in New York State. I don't know about the United States. We're the highest tax in the United States, but we also have a huge number of seniors. I think about 30% of our population in Chautauqua County are seniors, who are basically destitute, most of them. It's a very poor county. And so these mandates that keep coming down are killing us, especially Medicaid. Now Medicaid, they keep telling us, well, it's capped, we have this, we have that. It still costs more and more money for our county, because Medicaid, and this will affect your budget, of course, is the last ditch for somebody who needs medical help, who doesn't have insurance. And fewer and fewer people up here have insurance. Companies aren't giving them insurance. People can't afford the insurance at $10,000 a clip or something a year. They just don't have the insurance. And so they have to go to Medicaid. And we have to bear the burden of Medicaid, because New York State, in their wisdom, was one of the 3 states that gives 50% of Medicaid costs, half of their share, saddles the county with it, and we're stuck with it.
That's correct, and we need to come up with that funding. The state sends us a bill, and we need to pay it. It's another mandate that, regardless of what we attempt to do, it's very, very difficult for us to make those payments. And what we end up doing is we have to tax the residents to come up with the payment.
Yeah, and that's where our taxes are going berserk. County Executive Greg Edwards suggested that we're just not going to pay this year. We're supposed to send them some money. And he said, we're not going to pay this year. But they pointed out, well, the money comes back with extras. So we're actually making you money.
Well, it's a very convoluted sort of
situation.
I mean, I look at my office. We have grant fundings. We receive grants through New York State. I make those applications on a yearly basis to receive funding. And to me, sometimes I look at it as being unnecessarily complicated. I mean, it just has become so complex that it creates problems, and I don't know if anyone completely understands the whole system. It's unfortunate.
Yeah, well, they tell us there's, I had Kathy Young on a couple of weeks ago, and she says one of the big problems is Medicaid fraud. There's an awful lot of Medicaid fraud. I guess doctors are overcharging, among other things.
Well, I mean, you also have people that of course, we work through the Department of Social Services in welfare fraud as well, where people make application to receive public funding and in reality are making money on the side, and you have that as well. I mean, people aren't necessarily letting the system know that they are making money under the table, and that's a crime as well. So we actively pursue those people as well. But if we lose funding in that, we may lose a prosecutor who has the ability to prosecute those. You may lose investigators that can investigate those crimes, and it's just going to, in the end, create a bigger problem.
Yeah. To switch subjects, how's the war on drugs coming?
Well, it's...
Half your trouble is the war on drugs. The jail, they tell me, is half drug people.
I mean, I look at drugs as being a pervasive problem in our society. It always has been. I don't really like to call it a war on drugs. If you do, it's a perpetual war.
We've lost it.
It's something you're never going to stop fighting. That's the thing you have to recognize going forward. I think that with the advent of things like the drug treatment courts, where you're putting people into some of these alternative programmings, it's helpful. But it's nothing that's going to go away, and we just have to continue to try and nip at those street-level dealers, take them off. It's a quality of life issue more than anything, and hopefully be able to work our way up the chains and occasionally take down some higher level dealers and suppliers out there.
Yeah,
it's nothing we're ever going to be able to say we've won.
Yeah. Well, a friend of mine applied for a drug rehab with I think it was Dr. Burke's office, and he told them, unfortunately, we have no funding. There's a 2-year wait
to get in.
Well, now, of course, the alternatives throw them in jail. They can do that tomorrow. They have to just fill up the jail a little more, which is already overcrowded. Joe Girassi has his hands full trying to take care of all the people, half of whom, according to the pundits, are people with drug violations.
I wouldn't question that. I mean, I think that a lot of them, I mean, I look at crime and say, a few years ago we had 8 homicides back in 2008, and when they were all done, I sort of took a very close look at all of them, and I could draw a line in each one of those cases, back to either drug or alcohol abuse, some more directly than others, but it's a root problem in our society, drug addiction and alcoholism, and again, I don't know if it's anything that necessarily is going to go away, but I think we're slowly realizing that at least if you can get some of those people that show those signs of addiction and have committed low-level crimes, property crimes, and it maybe help them answer those addictions, maybe you'll be able to eliminate some of those people. So you hit the supply end in making arrests, you hit the demand end and maybe getting people into some of these alternative programs.
Yeah, well, of course, pot is the big deal. There's back in the 30s, William Randolph Hearst had a huge plantation, millions of acres of pulp pine trees, which was for paper. The only thing that competes with pine for paper is hemp. And so he got, of course, he was very powerful. He controlled the news all over the country just about. He got the Congress to pass a law against hemp or pot, which George Washington had 40 acres of it.
Did they make rope and?
Yeah, well, the Constitution was written on hemp, the United States Constitution. But at any rate, he blocked hemp and, of course, made it as a residual effect. Anybody who enjoyed smoking it was now a criminal, criminalized it. And, of course, thereby, since that time, he's criminalized most of the kids in college who are criminals now. They scoff at the law. It's outrageous. And even in high school. Let's see, currently there's 56% of the population enjoy smoking pot. That's one of the things. You have a martini or you can have a pot, have a joint. We got then during the war they had to reinstate pot because they needed it for the ropes and paper. It takes, I think, 100 million tons or something to outfit a boat or something, a ship. But at any rate, after the war, he went back to work with his hammer and tongs in 1947, reestablished the outlawed situation with pot. He made it illegal. And ever since then, it's been craziness. It's a craziness thing. And I've heard, to your credit or whatever, that in Chautauqua County, the pot prosecutions have dropped in level because of the fact that it totally jams the courts and the jails and everything on a nonsense thing.
Well, and there's a couple of reasons for that. Primarily, New York State has gotten to the point where I'm not going to say they've decriminalized it, but it's a violation for you to possess a certain level of marijuana, and it's, small amounts don't even amount to a crime at this point under New York State law, and that's the primary reason why it's done. And of course, they've loosened all the drug sentencing laws in New York State.
Hopefully, yes. I've got a couple of calls. You want to take a call?
Sure.
Hey, good morning, caller. Thank you for waiting.
Good morning. Speaking of marijuana and the laws and so forth, recently our music department went to Colorado for a weekend where they competed with different choral people from all over the country, and by the way, they did very, very well. Even took a first place in one category.
Wasn't that great? Well, that's Westfield for you.
But yes, for a small school, it's amazing. Mm-hmm. But the weekend that they happened to be there, or the week, there was something going on. Apparently, like they have medical marijuana in California, and I guess several other states.
Sure.
But Colorado, I don't know if they actually have.
It didn't pass, I believe.
Okay.
I believe it was up for a vote.
I went out to Colorado, Dave, one time with a friend, for several times, matter of fact, and wherever you went, they don't offer you a cup of coffee, they offer you a joint. Everybody there smokes it, and the joints are like little cigars. They call the ones that we have up here Virginia Thin.
Oh, yeah.
Slim, Virginia Slims. I said, these ain't Virginia Slims. Needless to say, I did not inhale. But
well, apparently they have a day that nobody gets arrested, and everybody
really?
Who wants to smoke pot smokes pot that day.
Well, how about
that? And it just happened to be the weekend, or during the time that the Westfield people were there, and I had talked to a couple of the students, and they mentioned that if you wanted to smoke pot, there was no problem. You just went outside and breathed. Because apparently it was just all over the place.
No kidding, huh?
And,
well, I mean,
and in fact, the college, they were close to a college somewhere, and according to the news reports, the college did not see this as a good thing and had tried to put stuff on the football area where a bunch of the students and kids, not high school kids, but college kids, were gathering to celebrate this "nobody's going to arrest me" day.
Non-smoke-free day.
Yeah.
It's the opposite of smoke-free day.
And they spread something on there to make the field less congenial to the students.
You say they put some horse manure on it?
That's what I heard. Yeah, I'm not sure. I heard that on the news, and that just sounds a little bit.
It sounds cockamamie, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the kids have to play there the next day,
That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking, well, that doesn't sound right to me.
No.
But
well,
anyway,
it's very interesting to me because you have, and even on television, I've seen some of these shows about these companies out in California that have formed to grow marijuana, and they supply it to individuals that have these medical marijuana cards, and
right.
California has said we're going to allow it to this extent. I don't know how prevalent or easy it is to obtain one of these medical marijuana cards, but I would guess that it's relatively simple, and more or less going against federal law. And one of the programs I was watching it one night, they had the United States Attorney for California on, who said, if we ever get the word, we're going to go in there and we're going to shut them down because federal law preempts state law. So federally it's still illegal, but there are states that are stepping up and are legalizing it to a degree.
I think there's more than just California now, but I'm not positive on that.
I think that's correct, although I'm not sure which other states are doing it.
I saw the question they did raid a couple of them. And the question they asked the police is, how do you feel about this? Here you're coming in, taking away marijuana from people who get some relief from cancer, which is many of them are cancer patients. How do you feel about this? And they just they admitted it didn't sound right. And of course, Obama's pursuing it.
Well, I mean, they're pursuing it to a certain degree. I mean, you know, again, they've allowed it